Thank you everyone for joining us today. It's a pleasure to be here. We've all come from different parts of the world, and we want to talk about what the Internet of Everything is. What's interesting is that we have three people from very, very different backgrounds who are going to give us a different perspective on what IoT is, the importance of it, and how we're going to see it in the future. I think a couple of key things that we want to discuss and make sure that we cover is A, how we're going to see IoT move forward in the next 10 years. Also, who are the stakeholders? And those different stakeholders, what kind of role are they going to play? And then more important is that how are we going to find this affect our entire lives? From the way that we eat, the way that we move, the way that we heal. So without further ado, I'm going to ask my panelists to spend a couple minutes and just talk about who they are, a little bit on their background, and then we'll jump into some questions. Go ahead.
Okay, so let me go first. I'm Patrick C, coming from Qualcomm. My role is to support the technical and the product marketing in the Southeast Asia region. So I believe most of you may heard about Qualcomm. So Qualcomm actually is a technology innovation company. In the last 20 years, we spent a lot of effort in order to develop the wireless technology in order to connect the people. So that's why a lot of smartphone right now you are using actually is a Qualcomm chipset inside. So looking forward on it, definitely we can be able to see, the IoT is coming and we need to connect the things instead of the people together. So what we are looking for the IoT on that is the things, all the things and all the place can be able to connect to each others on it. So the people where you are living on it, where you wear and where you work on it, they are all being connected, and the main goals on it is to improve the livings and also to help to improve all those kinds of the work efficiency.
Jonathan?
Hi, I'm Jonathan. I am the Managing Director of UnaBiz Singapore. So what do? We are the first Asia-Pacific IoT dedicated network operator. We have covered the entire island for more than a year with a Sigfox network. And right now, this is a network that spans across 45 countries and targeting to hit 60 by end of the year. And in the course of running the business for 2 years, I think we started from nothing. And right now, we have 2 to almost 3 million contract being signed for Sigfox network. Just in Singapore alone. So there's actually a lot of excitement here because we believe that massive IoT is the way to go. And our basic philosophy is providing a very low-cost network, very easy to deploy, very low power, no need for power cable, and being able to deploy to 45 to 60 countries immediately if you need to. All right, so that's our mentor. I'll move on to Singtel.
Diomedes?
Yeah, hi. I'm Diomedes. I'm representing Singtel. Hopefully 80% of you are actually right now on our network. And this is what we do as a core business, network connectivity for cellular connectivity. And of course, our ambition is to empower the Internet of Things, or the Internet of Everything. We believe when people get connected, they change their lives. And when we believe is that when everything gets connected, it's changing the world. So we are from Singtel. We're here to support and extend our network coverage, our network programmability and transparency to offer a ubiquitous and abundant service to everyone and everything.
Excellent. I'm from Brink. We're based out of Hong Kong, and we are an IoT accelerator. We're based in Europe, Asia, and we're trying to expand as best as we can. Our focus is to work with seed stage founders and help them develop their product and their business and hopefully take them to market. So I'm going to jump in straight away with Jonathan and maybe ask a question about where do we see IoT change in the way that we live. It could be in the way that we move, in the medical field. Where are we seeing a lot of that importance and a lot of that energy taking place right now?
All right. I've been in the field of technology for many years. During my days in Singtel NCS, I have went through times to try to persuade people to use data. That's the year 2000. Nobody thinking, why should I use data on my phone? I'm happy with the voice. But today, data is indispensable. So same with IoT, all right? We have successfully connected people to machine. Today, we have to connect machine to machine, device to device, sensor to sensor, and to connect everything. And this is eventually the way to go. Right now, we have seen in the last 2 years of running in Singapore, talking about real cases in Singapore, we have connected quite a number of buildings, putting sensors in there. The environments, the temperatures, the humidity, the motions. We're looking at rodents, pests within the buildings. Even the thing within the chairs, toilets, is already connected. Right now, I must say it is still in small stages, but it's going to move very big. We're connected a lot of beside buildings. We're talking about tracking. Tracking is going to be a tremendous thing. Every day people are asking us, how can we do a tracking here? How can I do a tracking with a factory? How can I track the aircraft parts? We do project in Airbus. How can I track my cranes? How can I track my vehicles? How can I track my things from Singapore to Bahrain, to Dubai, to the UK? These are questions people are asking us. And these are things that we're helping them to solve. And we're talking about also machineries. We just won a contract last week to track sensors within the factory. Because these are chemicals and sensors levels that is too dangerous and too unpleasant for people to go into there. We put in the sensors in there and get the data out. So there's actually tremendous lots of things coming. And mind you, I believe we are really in the beginning of a new era right now, whereby Internet of Things is going to drive completely a lot of stuff for all of us. All right, I won't take too much time. I'll pass to the next speaker.
Patrick, do you want to add something to that?
Okay, if I look at the IoT things on it, there are a lot of different segments on, right? You can be able to see there are some kind of the smart home or smart living solutions. We do have some of it like the smart city, smart nations, and while we are talking about others like the industrial 4.0, all those kind of the solutions on it. So if for Qualcomm point of view, actually, we do develop different solutions or technology in order to cover for different segments. For example, like for those kind of the smart home, smart living solutions, we have Wi-Fi and Bluetooth in order it can be able to all interconnected with all those kind of the white goods and applicants on it together. So all the sensors can be able to send the information and pass through the gateways back to the cloud on it. On the second segment on it is talking about the wearables. You can be able to see today a lot of the Android wearables, they are using the Qualcomm solutions. And as Jonathan mentioned about tracking, one of the tracking on it is to track the kids and also the elderlies, right? In order to know where they are. And they also need to put it as a wearables, as a solutions on it. So this is one thing in which Qualcomm also provides the solutions over there, apart from, of course, the asset tracking, those kind of the goods tracking on that as well. On the smart nations, then we are talking about those kind of the industrial 4.0. We do have all the solutions in order it can be able to transfer the data to the cloud, for example, like those kind of the smart meterings, the smart grid solutions, and also talking about even for the robotics on it, how it can be able to control it remotely. That is the things in which we can be able to see and help for the industry in order to grow for the IoT.
Interesting. So prior to our panel outside, we were having a discussion with Diomedes and Jonathan about the whole idea of how we're deploying networks today. So obviously there's a traditional route, through Singtel, Verizon, the really large carriers. And then you're also seeing now smaller companies who are agile, who can move fast and deploy different networks on lower frequency and lower consumption of power, coming into the spectrum right now and kind of working in conjunction with the telecom operators, and in some cases against. So I wanted to ask you, Diomedes, maybe you can give us some of that insight that we were discussing outside.
Yeah, I mean, for us, the main thing is that we see IoT as a network-first opportunity. And of course, as you are addressing network, you will find a lot of varieties of network that can be applicable for a certain use case. We see further than that, right? We believe that users should be entitled to a great network, fully programmable, fully transparent, and fully predictable. And whatever we can do to amplify the value of the network, we will do it. In few years ago, you would have seen most of the times company like this being competitors, right? But in order for IoT to materialize, this is where we actually need to move from competitors to value creators, right? And we need to understand how we bring value by synthesizing capabilities in an orchestrated way that ultimately will benefit people and things. So At Singtel, we believe that working together will make things better. And in fact, a lot of the players here in the sessions are partners. And sometimes they're partners from specific industries, sometimes they're partners from specific network capabilities, sometimes they're chipset manufacturers or chipset leaders. And we work with all of them because ultimately the end goal is to be user-centric, focus on the user, focus on the thing, make it highlight.
Do you want to add to that, Jonathan, since you were on the opposite side of that?
All right, you may recall there was one time a CIO of a very large Singapore company came to me and said, Jonathan, you have changed the world in 1 year. I said, why? Why do you say that? He said, because of you, all the telcos have suddenly wakes up and they are super competitive right now to offer us. Right? We see ourselves, why? Because Sigfox and UnaBiz, we see ourselves as the disruptor. We see ourselves as the disruptor. For the longest time, the network has been expensive. And it's also, but we believe in order to have massive disruption and massive deployment of IoT, you need to have very low-cost network to be able to deploy by the billions. If you were to pay $20 per point, and if you install 1 million network points, that will be $20 million just for the network. But the thing is, yes, for certain application, you need that. High throughput, very low latency, yes, you need that, mission critical. But if you need very simple sensor data that's not so, that doesn't need the latency, it doesn't need and you want to deploy everywhere, then you might consider a different kind of network, and that's where we comes in well. So for example, we signed a contract with the bicycle guys, the old bikes they see running around. We signed with them for 1 million bicycles to provide them the geolocation with GPS. 1 million bicycles around the world, not just Singapore. Singapore probably have 50,000, but the rest of the bikes can move around. Do you know how much is the network cost for each of the bike? Make a guess. The network cost of the bike per bike is only $1.10 per year. That's almost nothing. $1.10 per year. And it's with this, we can believe you can deploy by the billions on net everywhere. And the other thing is why we feel very strongly is that we can just build a network and just leave it and say, build it and they will come. Some other Sigfox network operator, and I know a lot of telcos as well, take on this mentality. I was on a telco myself. I believe build the roads, people will come. Yes, they will come eventually many years later. All right. Do you know, can you remember when the GPRS, when the data appeared in your hand phone? Can you remember? It's about the year 2000. I was there in the heart of things. All right, the year 2000. You know what that's called? That's called GPRS. I think I can't remember how many kbytes of that. GPRS, the year 2000. And the thing is, at the time, nobody see a need. Why do I need a data on the handphone? I have SMS. I can use a voice. Why do I need data? So the telcos and the manufacturer built the road. But it takes the user many years before they realize, oh, data is huge. I remember back in the year 2007, 2008, we were trying, I was in Singtel then, we were trying to develop application to entice users to use broadband. Because the broadband was built, but nobody is using it very much. Because there was no apps then. And we were trying to build apps to get you to use the roads. It's the same thing. Build it and they will come, but eventually. All right. We build the roads, you need to build the cars.
Yeah.
And we believe we don't just build the roads, we have to build the cars. And don't we just build the cars, we have to get ecosystem and people to build cars with us. Because the customer don't bother what network are you using. Is it Sigfox, is it MBLT, is it 3G? A lot of customers don't bother. Neither do they understand. So we need to make things simple for them. And we need to give them a complete solution.
Yeah, so that's a very valid point now, which we're going to jump into the ideas of adoption. Before we get into that, just to remind everyone that if you'd like, please jump online, download the app, and you can post some questions for us to answer in the next few minutes. So, Patrick, going into adoption, because you're from Qualcomm, which is obviously a hardware manufacturer, the birthplace starts with you. How are we looking at the adoption globally? Personally, I spend a lot of time in Asia and in China. Currently, right now, I'm in the Middle East, in Bahrain, and you see that all countries are moving in very different directions, and how fast that they're adopting. Maybe Qualcomm and yourself can shed some light on that.
Right. I think as what you say, is actually different countries or different regions, they will have different needs, right? So when we look at it, I mean, like Southeast Asia, the culture will be different, right? So the needs on that will be quite different compared to that if you are looking for the Europe and also for Australia or even for the US market on that. And that's why, I mean, when we are looking at those kind of the adoption and even talking about the technology, we don't expect that one technology can be able to fit everything, right? They have all different requirements and different needs on it, and based on it, you may need to fit for different technologies in order to cover. We understand, I mean, in the standard point of view, in the old days, I mean, all those kind of the 3G, even LTE itself, it is not defined to work perfectly on IoT solution. We are talking about is starting from voice and going for some kind of the mobile broadband solutions on it, going for smartphone, not for the IoT device. And that's why we understand the market needs, and there's a big ecosystem, a big drive going for the IoT. So on the standard point of view, it defines some kind of the new technologies, the narrowband IoT solution, the eMTC solution, in which it can be able to save the power, so those kind of the battery life can be able to last much longer. The coverage can be able to in-depth for 20 or 25 dB more compared with the existing 4G solutions. So all those kind of the IoT device can be able to go in-depth in those kind of the basement floors on it. These are the things in which we are going to see, in which it can be able to help to build up the ecosystem for the IoT. On that, in order, I mean, today, I mean, the 3G and also LTE itself solution may not be able to fully fit all those kind of the requirements. Right. And that's why we can be able to see going even forward for 5G on it, it has the massive IoT solution. And why they are looking for the massive IoT solution is because we are expecting the ecosystem continue to grow. We are not talking about only 10 devices in order to connect in a room. We are looking for is thousands of devices in order they are being connected.
That's correct.
And it needs to build up a good technology and ecosystem in order to build. Another portion, if you are thinking about is the cost. Today, you can be able to see the cost is still a bit higher. I mean, compared with the Wi-Fi, Sigfox, or maybe the Bluetooth solutions on that. But the cost is also related on the ecosystem and also the volume. One example in which I can be able to share with you is those kind of the LTE smartphone. If you look at 3 years ago, when you are looking to have an LTE smartphone, it's all talking about $400 to $600 US. And today, if you look at the market for the 4G smartphone, $100 US or less, you can be able to buy it because the ecosystem is big.
Yep.
And this is also related to the region. And some of the regions like in the China, India, Southeast Asia, it do have that requirement. And based on that volume, it can be able to drive all the things going down.
Yeah, I think an example of that, if I'm not mistaken, there was even a company out of India who was making phones at a loss and selling them for like, I think it was $28 or like $30 for a proper smartphone with 4G and LTE. Did you want to add something to that on the adoption?
I mean, there is a 2-3 driving forces that are happening today when it comes to adoption. One primarily originates from China. China has put a lot of emphasis on urban IoT, and the whole ecosystem in Shenzhen and beyond really prefers that type of resource for different reasons. One is coverage, the second one is basement reception, also battery utilization. So we see a lot of driving force coming out of China, so a lot of manufacturers there producing new type of devices that they're able to address new requirements and new use cases. The second drive will come from North America. North America is mainly focusing on, as well as China, on AI. Sometimes if you think of IoT, of a device being connected to a network, producing data, at the end of the day, IoT could also be categorized as an AI resource. So a lot of effort there. We see the latest announcements, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, right? They all do amazing work on building AI solutions that can capitalize on massive amount of data. And the third dimension is sort of the Nordics, where we see the vendors there, or the telco vendors, actually really pushing forward for massive MIMO, massive IoT, and all those kind of capabilities in order to allow service providers like ourselves be able to offer a ubiquitous service. So these three dimensions give an overall ambition level, which is quite high. And of course, more and more we see cities and countries. I mean, if you will look at Singapore today, the whole initiative about Smart Nation, we had last time in IoT Asia, the minister talking about with so much passion and intellect about IoT, right? That you can realize that a country will not fail when it has leaders that they're really pushing the whole country forward to embrace these kind of technologies. And the same in other countries as well.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. So with my own experience, what I've seen, I spent the last 10 years in Guangzhou, which is a small city, I guess, in China, about 22 million people. You look at the adoption rate, what's happening in Asia is far superior than anywhere you'll find maybe in the Middle East or Africa, because first of all, I think the mindset is there. There's a young generation who's requiring this kind of technology, and they're pushing for this adoption. And at the same time, they're not changing much new. When they're seeing new technology, like for example WeChat, it's kind of being pushed their way automatically. Okay, so let me jump into...
Another example is also maybe Dubai in your region,
yes,
right?
Of course.
Where they're the first city that they're offering with OAKN, I think, pass through the tolls of Tesla with blockchain, right?
Correct.
That is again an ambition of a city that it really pushes forward the envelope of making things happen, right?
And I think also important that is a reflection of Dubai is that you'll find this adoption rate much higher when they're building brand new cities where there's nothing there. Which is what you're going to find obviously in the Middle East, and I think coming up in Africa too. So let me start with some questions. So should there really be an internet of everything, and how do we stop it from being invasive and creepy? Very interesting point. Is it just getting used to it culturally, to the tech? Patrick, why don't you jump into that, since you're from Qualcomm and you're creating a lot of this tech?
Well, I think first of all, I mean, internet of everything. So it still need to take some time in order to connect everything on it. This is the main goal in order it can be able to connect all those kind of the things together. You need to start from something on it first, and that's why I mean it have those kind of the Smart Nation initiative on it to drive for industrial IoT segment, and also for those kind of the smart home on those kind of the solutions on it. I think rather it is, I mean, to get used culturally or not. I think it quite depends on the case on that. I mean, different market will have different needs, right? So and also for the different culture. Just give an example on that. Like in Thailand, in Vietnam, they use more those kind. They still have a lot of agriculture, right, on those kind of the farming. So these are solutions in order how it can be able to improve all those kind of the efficiency on it, or even like in Malaysia, they have all those kind of the palm trees and that, right? So on that one, then of course, I mean the focus at the beginning on that will be how it can be able to build up those kind of the smart agriculture farming solution. But this may not be able to apply like the cities like Singapore or Hong Kong on it, in which on that one, then it will be more driven. It's like the smart nations on it, how it can be able to improve those kind of the working efficiency, and how it can be able to build up like those kind of the smart grid, those kind of the solutions. So it will be quite different for different market needs.
Okay. And maybe Jonathan, you can let us know what are some of the problems with implementation of IoT, and how should IoT companies tackle them?
All right. We do a lot of hands-on work, so I can tell you there's a lot of real problem in IoT. But I always cite this example. Some people say, I want to do IoT, but the thing is, okay, IoT is a multidisciplinary technology. All right, it's not one skill. If you look at it, yeah, people who do this, you have to have sensors, which is hardware, connecting to a certain network, or whether it's 3G, MBLT, Sigfox, going to a certain platform, Microsoft and so forth, and finally the applications. So you need all four. And the thing is there any one company have all four stuff in one department? No. So in other words, collaboration is very key. There's a lot of people in the application side and a lot of people in the platform side. In the network side, there were a lot of network, but it's not, as been said before by Patrick, not quite suitable for IoT, but beginning with Sigfox, with MB, LoRa is coming in, the network part is being solved, or has been solved, or is going to be solved. But what I see is that honestly, the huge gap today is the device size. Because it is very difficult to create device straight away. If I say I want a vibration sensor in every single chair right now so I know who is up there, is it easy to do one right now? If you want to do an app, yes, maybe within a night somebody, guru can do an app for you one night. You want to do a device? Not so simple. Can you industrialize? Can you go massive? Not so simple. All right, so that is actually right now the biggest problem. And we actually committed a lot of resources to solve that problem. We have solved the problem for network. And now we're going to solve the problem for the device. And we're getting partners to work with us on the applications and on the platform so that we can provide and deliver a total solution. And on the device, I came from a software background. I didn't realize how difficult it is to do hardware. Do you know your battery life? How long it can last? How many messages can you send in order to sustain your battery life? Is it going to be 1 year, 3 years? Can I put a battery that can last 5 years without changing? Or if I don't consider my battery, throw in a device, it lasts for 3 months and I need to change the battery every 3 months, it will fail. I will fail. How about the antenna? Is the antenna good enough to be able to do the penetration even through closed indoor? Are you able to provide the coverage? There is so much thing in the hardware side. And we are putting in effort and we are putting resources to deliver good devices for you. So that then when bringing the partners on the AI side and on the analytics sides and on the platform and the dashboard, we can then create a total solution. So this is actually many of the time the problem we come is on that now. And that's why we're solving this first. All right. Once we solve this, we will move on to do the software.
Excellent. So the next question I'd actually like to tackle myself. And the question is where do you start in the IoT journey? So coming from my background of running an accelerator, I have to tell you that I've seen a lot of bad ideas. I think that we need to create products in our lives that actually help our lives. So to start your IoT journey, when you have an idea, I would start by saying one thing. If you were to create that product and use it and give it to someone to use for 30 days, if after that 30 days you take away that product from your consumer, would they feel a difference in their lives? If you think that after 30 days of using something that they're going to say, didn't really make much of a difference, that means you probably didn't have a lot of impact. So I think that what an idea that you might have as a good IoT product might not be for everybody. So I would test it and validate it before jumping into it. And the next question, which I think is a great question for you since you're with Singtel, is talking about different adoption pace. Which IoT application will be the first to go viral in your local market, which is Singapore?
I mean, there are a lot of applications that today have high penetration. I mean, depends how you define IoT, right? But even if you take, applications like Grab, is it Grab an IoT application or is it a service application? Or I think as any technology, right? As you're going through this maturity curve of how the technology looks like today versus how it will look in the future, right? There will be different type of applications that they will be applicable and they will create different network effect. Today, I think majority of the applications are really focusing on cost coverage, right, or cost optimization. If you look at most of the IoT and on the enterprise side at least, most of the IoT applications and projects that are happening primarily is to do two things, right? Reduce cost, improve automation, time to market, right? But however, this wave will move into the next side, which will be how do I create revenue now utilizing all these capabilities that I have built, all this automation that I have brought to the table, and all these insights that now, for the first time, I have digitally be able to aggregate in a data lake, right? So this wave currently is all about primarily, cost coverage, automation, simplicity. The next wave will be mainly on monetization. There are, of course, few early adopters that they are already moving into the monetization side already, but majority of the market right now is in the cost coverage.
And Patrick, maybe you can give us what are the critical barriers for growth of IoT in Singapore?
Well, I think a few things in which it will be some kind of the barrier. I'm not saying that it's the most critical, but at least the barriers on that. The first one is the size, because Singapore is still a bit small. on it. So in order to develop IoT solutions, in order it can be able to build up some good volumes, if it can be able to leverage for others market together or other countries also have the same needs on it, then it's okay. But if it is more specific for Singapore use on it, and actually talking about the volume and the size is a bit limited. So actually, it will have some kind of the concerns on that. Another things in which, if I'm looking at the barrier on that, is talking about is the how to build up the whole ecosystem. We are all talking about the ecosystem. We have the telecom operators over there in order to provide the solutions, but we still need to have, for example, system integrator on it to do the SI, right? We need to have the government in order to push on it, like those kind of the government agency, the GovTech, in order to drive for those kind of the use, like the smart nations on it to build up more projects or case in order to work it out with. And also, I mean, you need to have a lot of developer, whatever is coming from a software application developers or some hardware developers, in order to develop the solution. So the ecosystem cannot be able to drive for one or two companies. It needs to have a consortium. I would say it's like a consortium in order to build up the solution. And also one critical thing on it is I believe there are so many vertical segments industry in which they need the IoT, but somehow they need to let, I mean, at least the industry knows that, I mean, what are the needs? What is the requirement, right? Because we are not in that industry. Like medical, we are not in the medical industry. On that, we may not know exactly what else they want, right? Like for us, we can be able to provide all the connectivity solution, but I don't know what will be the major requirement in which they need over there, right? So every vertical industry, in order if it can be able to have some idea in order to define on it, so it can be able to help at least all those kind of the ecosystem partner in order to develop the solution in order to help for their specific purposes.
I would just
Please.
on that. I think, you know, being now in the edge of IoT from a network standpoint, I think that one of the reasons that we feel that is a little bit of a barrier right now is how to harmonize regulation with technology achievements, right? Definitely technology moving very fast nowadays. The barrier of getting new technology, developing new devices can happen very, very fast. The question is, how do you able to harmonize that particular speed, right, with the way a nation or a country or a city is able to adapt to this kind of change. And if you look at today, Singapore, while there is a lot of devices being available, not all of them are available in Singapore. And because they have to go through the certification process, I mean, all good things, right? But it's just that it needs to be harmonized as we go along in order to have faster pace, right, going forward.
Well, actually, I wanted to follow up from a comment from Patrick to you and talk about what's happening in Singapore in terms of this word that we use as ecosystem. In the ecosystem here, do we see that the government is a driving force? Is it the private sector that's a driving force? Is it the universities? Is it the entrepreneurs? What are you seeing in Singapore today?
I think the beauty about Singapore is all of those forces are happening at the same time. If you go just outside, you will see Nanyang University and Singapore Polytechnic driving their own type of startups, you know, in a booth. You can see Singtel and Innovate launching a product. You can see other vendors. You can see the government, you know, pushing all this kind of setup. I think that's the fusion that it creates a lot of strength and a lot of power for Singapore as a nation that is yet so small, but at the same time so impactful. So that's I think.
Did you want to add anything to that, Jonathan?
Yes. Within the course of a short span of a year plus, we have garnered almost 100 ecosystem partners in Singapore. That consisted of education institutions, government bodies, manufacturers, large system integrators, and especially small system integrators and solution makers. And we find that the one who move with us the fastest are the smaller system integrators, because they are the very small, nimble, and they can produce solutions quickly for customers. And we feel that the other person, I would say, I wouldn't call it ecosystem, but they form an integral part of this, is the customer themselves. Because IoT is so new, and as Patrick has said, I have faced it many, many times. The innovation department people ask me, Jonathan, what can we do? I have SEO asking me, tell me what I need. So my question is, how I know what do you need? I am not a manufacturer or not a retail guy. So what it means is that actually the industry needs, if you want digital transformation, you need the customers and the technology guys, the guys who know the business and the guy who know the technology to work hand in hand.
Yeah,
if it's just a simple thing of just saving costs, I want to do it cheaper, better, faster. Yeah, just tell me what you do now, I'll think of a better way, I do it for you. That we have been doing all this while. We have been doing currently today. We make customers and give them a solution cheaper, faster, better. But it's not exciting enough. You want transformation. And to get transformation, you need to work together.
It's a very valuable.
And to that, that's why we are building verticals. We are changing some of our customers, the key customers, to be inverted comma our ecosystem partner, although we don't technically sign a partnership. Because by doing so, we work with them and brainstorm what can we deliver for them in the IoT space. And that is where it makes a difference. And we're doing that in the aviation sectors. We're doing that in the logistic supply chain sectors. And we are doing that in the food industry sectors. And we are doing that in the building, smart building, automation sectors. So these are the 4 areas we are moving into.
That's
and
excellent.
it won't work unless you have a customer on your side.
That's excellent. So I hope that everyone enjoyed the panel and understood a little bit more about the Internet of Everything. I want to thank my panelists for giving us some great insight. Now, usually at the end of a panel, we're supposed to answer a question for you, and I actually want to leave you with a question. Do we see ourselves in 5 or 7 or 10 years? Are we going to call it the Internet of Everything? Are we going to call it IoT? Or is it just going to be a part of our lives, that we're just connected to thousands of devices around us? I leave that question with you, and I thank you very much for your time.